did the crime, paid his time. Should he just walk back into a highly paid professional job in the public eye?
Well, I think everything depends, basically, on, of course, whether the club wants him back, but more importantly, perhaps, whether the fans want him back. And I think he will have to brave, if he does go back, he will have to brave an awful lot of comments, obviously, from the fans who are there. But having said that, I mean, if he's served his time, he's served 2 years. The rape, and I am not pleased by any means minimising any kind of rape, but the rape was not violent. He didn't cause any bodily harm to the person. It was unpleasant in a hotel room, I believe, and she'd had far too much to drink. You know, that is reprehensible. But he has been convicted and he has served his time. Now, when he comes out, what are we supposed to do? Just actually to refuse to let him do his job again, even though he's already been punished?
But hasn't he lost the right to do that job? I mean, the judge had, when he sentenced him, said, you have thrown away the successful career in which you were involved. You say that there was no physical harm, and the girl was very drunk. But that was the crux of the case, that she was so drunk, she couldn't give her consent. And it was him and a friend, and that she was taken back to a hotel room. She remembers nothing about it because she was so drunk. So the issue was, you didn't get her consent because she was so drunk she couldn't give it, which is the crime. He was convicted by a jury. He's claiming that he's innocent. He refuses to accept the jury's decision. And I just think if we did anything like that, we wouldn't be allowed back on here. You know, if I had committed any kind of crime, actually, not necessarily a violent crime.
If he was a plumber, for example, nobody would say that when he comes out having served... Well, there's a bigger issue here, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But if he was a plumber, nobody would say you can't go back to being a plumber.
No, but a plumber's not going to be on Match of the Day or on television or being applauded on a pitch.
Have to be able to... We spend a lot of money in this country on rehabilitating prisoners, on getting them back into employment. I live in South London. Barely a night goes by when I don't get an ex-prisoner ringing my doorbell with an ID card, selling dishcloth, saying, I can't get a job, I'm trying to rehabilitate myself.
But then people would say you should have thought about that before you committed the crime.
Making him jobless is how...
But he probably won't be jobless. He could maybe get a job that's not in the public eye.
We're having this conversation because he's only served just over 2 years for what is a serious crime.
He was sentenced to 5.
He was sentenced to 5, and he's going to come out. You know, that's the issue.
Do you think they'd feel differently if he'd served 5?
I think if he'd done 5 years, then I don't think we'd be having this conversation.
Even if he'd done 5 years, you know, should he still go back to a very highly paid job where he will receive adulation from fans? What message does it send?
I would like to go out and football.
Supposing it was a different offence, supposing it wasn't rape, which is so emotionally sort of complicated, and we all have huge feelings about it. Women have huge feelings about it. Supposing he was in for, I don't know, breaking and entering or something like that, and he'd served his term, what would you think then?
I'd think probably quite similarly, actually. I think you
have anybody who's done
reneged your right to have that kind of position. If you were a police officer, you would be expelled from the force. If you were a doctor, even if it was for fraud, you would never be allowed back into that.
Then, in your mind, because
yes, it does have an end.
There's a beginning when you commit the crime.
You've done your time.
There is an end, surely.
I think you then
what you're saying is that they get punished for the rest of their lives.
Well, I don't see it as punishment. I see it as you haven't earned the right to go back in at that level. I think you can go back, go and train to be a plumber where nobody sees you on Saturday night on TV, and you're not earning that kind of money yet. If he was then retrained for something and earned his stripes and earned that kind of thing, but I think what message does it send? What message does it send? And we've talked a lot on this show about the way young footballers often treat women with very little respect, the way they view women, and a lot of these sexual cases. What message does that send to young footballers? Which is, yes, he's done that. Yeah, he did the time, but yeah, come on back. Get your highly paid job back in football.